Boko Haram victims are the common people you see on the street of Maiduguri. They can give you first-hand information on how it all happened. At a time, Maiduguri used to be the easiest place to get killed in the world. They had infiltrated the communities and introduced religious extremism, forcing the practice on both Muslims and Christians. Abubakar Shekau, their ruthless leader, showed no mercy to his victims with his campaign. He caught the attention of the world after taking 276 Chibok schoolgirls hostage on 14th April 2014. Maiduguri, the epicenter of the activities of Boko Haram, a state where the merchant of mayhem unleashed terror and left the citizens devastated. According to the Institution for Security Studies, since 2009 when the group launched its violent campaign, its reign of terror has resulted in the death of more than 20,000 people and displaced more than 2 million throughout Nigeria that has spread across the northeast into Cameroon, Niger and Chad. The peaceful and accommodating Maiduguri town changed quickly due to Shekau's activities. These from 2009 left Nigerians with a mark they will never forget.
The killing of Muhammad Yusuf was deliberate. To me, it was deliberate to ignite a war. While killing somebody who was just speaking, he had his freedom to speak. It was not hate speech. It was not hateful, his speech. And that when he was arrested again, he was handed over to the police. The military handed him over to the police. Why killing him extrajudicially? They killed him extrajudicially. And those who did this thing, Nigerians have not come to know what happened to them without trial.
This is the place where Muhammad Yusuf was established, where he had his marks, where he was training the Al-Majiri school children, and of course, where all the meetings were taking place. The government had to intervene to demolish the structures here in Marcus. How this group deteriorated the economy of the state and plunged many into extreme poverty and malnutrition has become a trauma to live with.
Bamu fasa tafiya ba cikin pipe karfe 5 na yamma, bamu daina tafiya ba har gari ya waye karfe 2 rana tukuna muka samu kwaltan da zamu nema abin da zai tare mu ya kawo Maiduguri. Wannan duk cikin tafiya. Ni a tafiya ma lokacin ma banki ma an hura duniya ya tashi a lokacin ma zundurutu sofa zamu ja ruwa in ka san ana feshi magani mun je inda ba ruwan da ba fesa ba sai mu doka mu sha muna fita hanya abun tausayi mu ma kamar wanda yana da karfi akwai mace ta haifa hanya akwai wanda ya mutu hanya wata mata muka yi jana'izan sa a cikin Logomani wani gari mu gari guda muka fita komba ka san garin namu yawanci civil servants ne komba muka fita group za ku hada ku kamar 10 kuna group daya 10 suna baya kawai dai abin kamar garkin shanu ana tafiya komba muka fita muka zo wani kawun shuwa sai muka shiga ana ruwa ina karkarwa sai mutum ya ce kai wannan baka ci abinci ba na ce ban ci ba shikenan aka tasa nonon shanu saniya aka samu shinkafa fari aka saka ba zan manta da wayannan ba aka sa mun na sha ciki na ya fara rike ni tam sannan muka fara tafiya muna tafiya muka je muka kwana a wani kauye a gaba wani kauyen shiwa da muka kwana muka fita kwalta da muka fita kwalta mun zo dab da Maiduguri wani mota ya loda kayansa yana tafiya zai je Gamboru sai muka tare shi kasa muna buya ne kar su zo kwalta su kashe mu sai muka fita muka tare ya doko baya ina zaka tafi yace Gamboru galanci ai muka ce masa garin ai an kwashi muka zo Dikwa ba mota lokacin Dikwa ba karba ba amma yanda muka zo Dikwa ni na san yanda gari mu babba an tashi su ma za su tashi din na sa rai babban gari ya tashi karami zai tashi nace local gamu namu ya tashi Dikwa zai tashi ko a shana ba su kece ba shi din aka karba sai muka wuce muka zo muka tare wannan direba muka ce yalla bai ba mu da kudi in mun je Maiduguri za mu ce ai kun yi saving life dina ma in na tafi zaka kubewan banza muka ce yace mu cire kubewan mu wasar muka cire kubewan muka wasar a gefen kwalta mu a cikin mota mun kai 20 cikin gob muka loda kawai in ka shigo waje zaka shigo sai muka zo bakin Maiduguri sojoji sun ji labari sun kulle gate ina da ID card na NYC lokacin SPR iyaye sai na nuna sojan yace abinda kana ba da gaskiya ne ce ya gaskiya ne sai aka bude muka shiga.
The story you're about to watch started in Shekau community in Yobe State, where a terrorist was born. Damaturu to Shekau is 1 hour. Journeying through a rough and uncomfortable road, a scary experience with a thought of getting attacked. We traveled to meet with the relative and family members of the late terrorist Abubakar Shekau. My observation with the neighboring communities as we make our trip to Shekau's village was how porous they are to attack, and surprises from these deadly terrorists can spring up at any time. We passed through bushes without security checkpoint, hoping to get to Shekau. One would have thought Shekau was a developing town, but this site changed the narrative. A community where the most wanted terrorist was born. The district head was our first place of call. He seems to know Shekau while he was growing up.
Lokacin da ya fita gari, shi bai san komai ba ma. Bai kai yaro wannan ma ba. Ba zai wuce shekara 7 ko 8 ba. Kwata ma. Shi kenan kakansa ne ya doka ya fita. Uban kam dama babu. Uban shi bai damu da komai ba. Miskini ne. Ma komai ma mu ne ba ke.
It was a relief for him to share the experience of how the life of the dreaded terrorist was and how the community has been stigmatized. While relating with other members of the community, they were happy that none of them was influenced by Abubakar Shekau, despite the fact that this was where he was born.
Don ko yana da wanda knowledge sa shi uban yana da ilimin sa to ni ma akwai gurgurdan ilimi na wannan karanta a makaranta shi yasa da muka ji abin da yake karanta muka ce ba mu yadda ba ilimin sa da uban yana da ilimin Muhammadiya ni kuma a makaranta na Maiduguri na karanta saboda ko uban da ya ji abubuwan da yake faɗa ya ce a bana kaunan ka zo kusa da ni ma wannan ni ina sai kuma ya shafa da abubuwan jama'a uban duk jama'an da ke suke wurin ba wanda bai ji ba wanda bai gani ba abun da ya kawo muna.
His father never wanted anything to do with him again till he passed on. Abubakar Shekau was the first son to this poor woman, Falmatu Abubakar. When she heard the news of the death of her son, she confirmed to Trust TV that she was never surprised.
Dan wu lawar nyimbe ya naam jama na zenya wu abiya no ngona naam shar ka usuna ma shimbe yoro nongui ba yoro nongui amma yombo ma sha yombo naam anda sha sai da rogu bari naam yawa Allahu akbar chama ne sharin be yan washa da tariyo naam ba yan washa da tariyo naam washa sai rogu bari Allahu akbar tabbas jire alhamdulillah shar ko ado yanzu ma shade sambu sangalle tanan zama rukai Allah
You do not want to stay too long in Shekau community. We hurried our way out with a lot of concern on Abubakar Shekau. Our concern was informed on whether the dreaded terrorist was truly dead. Nigerians had had instances where he was declared dead by the Nigerian military, and on several occasions, he managed to make a mock of the statement through launching new attacks and videos. What makes Nigerians think he's truly dead this time? We traveled to Maiduguri, where the name Boko Haram resonates more than it does in Yobe State. Maiduguri used to be a ghost town at the wake of the insurgency. Today, many people have beckoned the street. One can hardly tell if this was the same Maiduguri the world knew during intensified attacks.
Abubakar Shekau was becoming too big, and that he doesn't listen to the dictation of the bigger from Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and so, which created ISWAP for the entire West Africa. And therefore, Shekau was becoming independent of ISWAP, and therefore that was not acceptable to them. They had to find a way of liquidating him. And second, the second excuse was that Shekau was only out to kill anybody, which also sold now, because Shekau's branch had been ruthless, never took prisoners. It was killing people. It was abducting young girls and marrying them off. So it was an opportunity for them to use the narrative in order to fight him. And then eventually, instead of surrendering, he blew himself.
From the news we are getting, from the feelers we are getting, from what we observe on the international media, and what we learned the surrendered insurgents have said, I think there is an element of truth that Abubakar Shekau is indeed dead this time around. And what gives me the confidence to agree that he's dead, I believe if he were alive, he would have made, even if it's an audio, because recently, 2-3 years ago, he makes videos easily. But we discovered that recently he finds it difficult to make videos, maybe for some technical reasons. But he makes audio clips from time to time. So I think if he were alive, by now he would have made an audio message. Even if it's an audio, even if it's a video, at least he would have made an audio message telling the world that I'm still alive. So I strongly believe that he's dead. Abubakar Shekau is actually dead.
Even the leader of ISWAP, that is Barnawi, they call him, he's confirmed now that he's dead by the Nigerian security agencies. All these are welcome developments that have mellowed down their activities, even though they still this. But you know, this kind of a situation does not get overnight. You know, come to an end overnight. But we are surely on the way out, and the new military recuperation is putting pressure on them.
The establishment of IDP camps is one of the effects of Boko Haram activities in Maiduguri. For over 7 years, many people have never gone back to the place they call home. Their means of survival have been relied on government and NGOs. Some of them gave an account of lack of sufficient food.
Mu rayuwa mu a gida ana noma, abinci ma sai mu gan buhu an tona rami ana binnewa muna ci, haka ne muna gani mutane mu suna yi. Amma yanzu ana ba mu abinci kwano biyu kwano uku, kuma yiwa mu baya mutuwa. Kuma daga wannan mu an zo an daina ba mu abinci ne. Shine yara su je su yi tallan fiye wata, wannan ya fita ya yi tallan haka su fita a kama, wani ya fita ma kwana 5 ma ba zai zo gida ba. Sai za mu je mu neme su tukun za su zo gida. Abin da ya sa in sun zo nan ma ba abinci. Sun ce bari su je su yi barra a waje su samu abincin suna ci kwana 5 uku, wannan sun zo su ma za su zo da leda su ce gashi wannan abincin ku ci, ana ba mu muna ci.
The account of Muhammad Bulama is instructive. As human, their means of survival can never be compromised. The IDPs are commonly found of engaging themselves in enterprising activities to complement their means of livelihood. Our observation with the female children at the camp is their skills in knitting traditional caps, while the male children are hardly seen around. Like many northern states in Nigeria, Maiduguri has 3 children, but on account of insurgency, you can hardly tell if they are Almajiri street children or children from the IDP camps. Boko Haram campaign in the northeast has not only sent victims to the IDP camp, they made sure they destroy and damage business activities. The intervention of government in recapturing communities taken over by Boko Haram and the return of normalcy has given the people hope. Business activities are back on the street. but they will have to start all over again.
Kasuwancinmu bai kai da ba. Dan kasuwanmu ya koma baya fiye da a cikin kashi 100, kashi 70 duk ya koma baya. Dan wasu mu ma sun ci jarinsu. Wani a shago bai da komai, wani ba zai biyan shagon shi ba. Wani kuma abincin gidansa ma sai wani ne zai taimake shi. Wanda da yana da miliyan 10 yau 100 ya fi karfin shi. Wanda yana da miliyan 2 yau naira 10 ya fi karfin shi. Kamar mu wanda mu sai masu miliyan 10 sun samu tukuna mu za mu samu kam ba magana mu. Yanzu haka karan kaina da muka haɗu kuma zan je wani wajen friend na wani in aliko 1000 ko 500 wanda zan je ciyar da yara na. Saboda haka mu ba abin da muke so mu yi. Fata dai Allah ba mu zaman lafiya a garinmu nan.
What does the development of the surrendered Boko Haram means to the elite in the society? Is the war still far from over?
Why would you ask me this question? It's not a question you will ask me. I'm not a malam, not even the malam, Meduba, what do you call them? So I think this question does not belong to me. We hope that this insurgency or security situation will come to an end as soon as possible. I mean, Shekau is not doing the war alone. But he was the head, very influential and powerful one. Now that he's out, the body is still there. But we see now that people are surrendering. We hear the good news that ISWAP Commander 2 is dead. But that does, immediately after his death, somebody will take over. And now it depends on that person. So I think the question should be, in the situation we are, as a politician, what do we do? What does the government need to do? I told you all this, that the government is now on its feet, in fact on its toe, doing what they need to do. The president brought supplementary budget, we approve it. The budget in 2020 is a top-up of what they need. I think defense is taking the bulk part of it. So what remains now is for Nigerians to be optimistic and support the military and the government. This is not something that it affects all of us.
The massive surrender of Boko Haram, to the Nigerian forces. Ideologically speaking, if you have read through the various groups that are linked to jihadist movement around the world, and from the earlier history of how this thing started, you will know that it never ends permanently, because no nation can be able to do away with similar, problems, the security challenges that it forces is so enormous. That was why, for us Muslims, we believe that even in the teachings, there is a provision that once somebody professes to be a die-hard terrorist, you just eliminate him. You don't make amends with them, because gradually it is just like a wildfire. Once you see it burning, it cannot be put out. So it's just the seed of terrorism is always there and will be always permanently there. But there are things that government and other agencies can do to mitigate the prevalence and the continuation of these problems. That is what we will now think out of the box and bring about a change into the situation that we are in. So Shekau died. Yes, we celebrate it, but still we are not celebrating it because the ideology didn't die. We are not celebrating because still there are remnants of armed combatants in the bush that are also a threat to national security. We are not celebrating because the surrender that we have been now witnessing wasn't done under the normal, protocols of surrender. Because if somebody decided to lay down his arm, there has to be a kind of dialogue, there has to be a kind of roundtable discussions with the leadership of the group and government agencies, and there has to be a presentation of the arms that were laid down. But if I say, for example, I have big arms with me, I have been destroying towns and cities, I have been killing people, taking ransom and kidnapping, and people have been seeing me with gun trucks and what have you. And just overnight, in the morning, I came out empty-handed and said, I am surrendering. Wouldn't you ask me, where are your weapons? These are questions that we need to ask. Yes, under the international humanitarian law, there are protocols that has to be followed. There are codes of ethics that has to be followed, conventions of the resolutions of the United Nations in terms of surrender and in terms of treatment of surrendered combatants. All are there, we know. So therefore, yes, government is on top of the situation because we know our military are trained both in combat and in other aspects of the social life. So therefore, they wouldn't be foolish enough to accept people that are surrendering without arms and then will try to reintegrate them back into the society. So therefore, Boko Haram insurgency, yes, will come to an end eventually if all these principles that I have mentioned were effectively followed and executed, because that is the yearning and aspirations of our people. People have suffered for the last decade or so as a result of this crisis. So these are what we are now expecting, both from the security establishment, from government agencies, both state and national. And the good side of it was that our governor, immediately the massive surrender started, he flew to Abuja, he met Mr. President, he met the service chiefs, and the president beautifully, had a meeting with the Security Council where they have deliberated extensively on it. And from the deliberations, we have now come to understand that even the government is only accepting the surrender based on the principles of the international humanitarian laws as established by the world bodies, because they cannot just sit down and one day somebody will just come and say, yes, I have surrendered, and tomorrow he took arms against the government. So this is the beauty of the whole scenario that is now unfolding, and we are watching.
Well, this is a very critical question, because as I'm talking to you now, the general impression that people have within the Maiduguri metropolis, and by extension the whole of Borno State, is that how do you allow somebody who has killed your family, who has destroyed your people's lives and livelihoods, how do you allow such a person to come back to the community, reintegrate him, and expect him to stay with the people in the community? The same people that he has, over the years, he has been killing and he has been maltreating. So that is the general impression that people have. People are very skeptical about allowing these surrendered insurgents to be reintegrated back into the community. That is number one. I think the second aspect is, or issue that people are raising is, what is the government going to do about it? Yes, they have surrendered. Where are they going to be taken? What is going to happen to them? Are they going to be kept in a confinement like what we have in Gombe, the Operation Safe Corridor? For how long are they going to be kept in confinement? So these are critical questions that people within the metropolis are asking. I was talking to somebody who said, where that they have surrendered, okay, over 1,000 have surrendered, where are they? Where are they being kept? What is going to happen to them? How are they going to be reintegrated? So how sure are we? The third issue is, how sure are we that these people have dropped the ideology? Because ideology is something that is very critical in the minds of an individual. If somebody develops a very terrible ideology, it will take a very long time for you to de-radicalize him, for him to drop that ideology. So people are asking whether actually they have dropped that ideology, or is it because of hunger, deprivation, and the firepower of the Nigerian military that made them to surrender? These are critical questions that people are asking, and I think the Borno State government, the military, and the federal government need to come up with a strategy and share this strategy with the local people in the communities and the community leaders so that people will know how this surrendering thing is going to be handled effectively in the long run. Because from feelers we are getting, a lot more of these insurgents are going to surrender in the coming months. So what is going to happen to them? That is the question.
Abubakar Shekau might be dead, but some scholars say their ideology still lives on because there are instances where Boko Haram members were rehabilitated or reintegrated into the society only to go back to the bush and take up arms again. With the development of the surrendered Boko Haram, will the government reintegrate or execute them? Is the common man finally free on the street?